Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's stream. A news summary from Moscow program. Today is 17th of September. Now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time. And as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments that Russian media and public is paying attention to. And hopefully, you will find news episode informative and useful. And if so, dear friends, please like the video, click that like button, and leave some commentary. This might help to deal with this algorithm on both platforms, on YouTube and Rumble. Although on YouTube, algorithm is, from my experience, is much more aggressive than on Rumble. As you know, I'm streaming on both my channels on these platforms, YouTube and Rumble. And after news segment, I will join community chat as I always do. And if you have a question or commentary that you want to discuss during the question time, let's say, please use capital letters in your question or the comment so that I will spot it a little easier while scrolling through chat. And also you can use a super chat feature or round feature on Rumble. It will make it easier to spot your question. Not just easier, but I would not miss it because Anya, my wife, will tell me that there was a super chat with a commentary or the question. So unfortunately, StreamYard's this chat window is not highlighting when there is a super chat. Comment is seeing like any other comment, so you cannot distinguish. So Anya is helping me with that. And so what else? Dear friends, yesterday I published, I don't know, 5 or 6 short videos from live stream for the members of our community that might struggle with the time to watch full video. View numbers were not that great, to be frank, on those short clips. But maybe if I continue publishing short clips from live streams, sometime in the future, one of them will manage to break through the algorithm's barrier and reach wider audience. It's a possibility. But anyways, if you will have a time and come across one of my short clips from live stream, please like the video. That might also help to somehow deal with all this crazy situation with the algorithms, right? Okay, that's being said, if you want to support her, all the links are on this video in description box. Dear friends, majority of our community knows that. Of course, once again, hello everyone, and let's start the news segment first. And well, as I do quite often, I will start with the latest update of Russian Defense Ministry about work of air defense systems on duty. And well, you might be surprised, but seems like yesterday, Kyiv regime and its NATO backers were saving some drones, let's say, that they usually launch in dozens to strike deep into Russian territory, because report from RIA Novosti is that air defense shut down 8 drones in 4 regions overnight. So over the course of their past night, air defense systems on duty destroyed and intercepted 8 Ukrainian aircraft type unmanned aerial vehicles. This report says, to be more precise, in the Rostov and Bryansk region, 3 drones each, and in the Kursk and Voronezh regions, 1 drone each. We might assume that NATO and their proxy regime is stockpiling drones to launch a large-scale attack in upcoming days, and that's the most likely explanation of this relatively low number of drones that was launched towards Russia last night. Also, TASS news agency is reporting that Russian armed forces are fighting for Seversk in their DPR along a front more than 12 kilometers wide. So Russian forces, as I reported earlier, are quite active in the Seversk direction, and already forward units of the Russian armed forces are conducting military operations on the northern parts of the Seversk. And same time, as I reported a couple of days ago, Russian armed forces managed to achieve a breakthrough in a forestry area I call it Serebryanka Forestry, on the northern side of Seversk, northern western side, and on outskirts of Yampol, and very close to Liman. And due to these developments, soon, as I predicted earlier, we should expect a Russian offensive in direction of Seversk to take place from the western side too, because right now Russian troops are in a position to conduct simultaneous offensives in the Yampol direction, Liman direction, and Seversk direction simultaneously. And I recently watched one of their videos, by the way, of former interviews of former advisor of Zelensky, Arestovich, and I believe he was saying that Russian troops actually are in Yampol itself and conducting operations there. So I guess this my prediction is becoming reality as time goes by. And 12-kilometer wide front offensive is quite something, isn't it? Clearly, sectoral scale offensive operation is going on there. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Ukrainian authorities have expanded their evacuation zone in the Dnipropetrovsk region. I reported about it yesterday, but I think it's worth noticing once again that in the Dnipropetrovsk region, the zone of evacuation of civilians is expanded to 18 more settlements in Silnikovsky district. And this does make sense, actually. It's good that civilians have been given an opportunity to evacuate, even if they can't wait for Russian troops to come and liberate them and their settlements. But nevertheless, this is a high-intensity conflict, and of course, it would be better if civilians would evacuate. And when areas are liberated by Russian forces, to come back when it's safe, when after all demining operation is conducted and so on. And already Russian armed forces, dear friends, in Dnipropetrovsk direction have liberated about 10 settlements, and progress continues. Initiative is, of course, in hands of Russian armed forces all along the front line. And yesterday was final day of ZAPAD 2025 large-scale military exercises that Russia and Belarus conducted. This is traditional year-to-year exercises, although this year military formations from CSTO organization, Collective Security Treaty Organization, was also participating, and military units from a number of Shanghai Cooperation Organization countries, including India, by the way. And the presence of Indian troops in these exercises did make some waves, isn't it? In the media, in the Western so-called media included, and there was another meltdown, by the way. How dare you, India, send your troops and so on? But it is what it is. After all, U.S.'s fault that relationships, U.S.'s and the Western fault that relationships between West and India has been deteriorating tremendously, which is unfortunate, actually, which is not benefiting nobody. But yet again, this was a choice of the West, and unfortunately, escalation still continues. Meanwhile, dear friends, we have another reporter. Which is related to Ukrainian crisis, of course. Unfortunate report that U.S. approves first NATO-funded military aid package for a Kyiv regime. A report is to go through details here that Donald Trump administration and the Pentagon have approved the first package of military aid to Kyiv financed by U.S. NATO allies. Originally, this was reported by Reuters News agency, citing sources. The Deputy Secretary of the Defense, Elbridge Colby, approved 2 batches of $500 million under new mechanism called the Priority Needs List. The publication says, unfortunate that U.S. is still leading the charge in this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. Despite all the hopes of America First people that U.S. will pull out of this proxy war, despite all the hopes here in Russia too, by the way, and worldwide, that maybe under Trump's administration some decisive actions will be taken and Washington will distance itself from this proxy war that only harms U.S. and U.S. national interests, by the way, on geopolitical scale, on any scale really, and does not benefit at all If you think, well, you see $500 million will be transferred to US as a result of this military aid package, US is losing much more than 550 millions, man. US is losing much more. US is losing its future, if you ask me. And many people, especially among America First force in the US, probably will agree with me that US is losing much more than some $500 million. Anyways, while this is happening and Washington clearly escalates with Russia, continues to escalate with Russia, Trump, for whatever reason, went to say that Zelensky will have to make a deal. So US President Donald Trump on Tuesday renewed calls for a settlement to Ukrainian conflict, insisting that Vladimir Zelensky will eventually have to strike a deal with Moscow. And I have a short clip, dear friends, when Trump was talking about it. Let me show you this video and you tell me what you make of it.
Well, he's going to have to get going and make a deal. He's going to have to make a deal. Zelensky's going to have to make a deal. And Europe has to stop buying oil from Russia. Okay? You know, they talk, but they have to stop buying oil from Russia.
Well, Trump says this, that Zelensky has to make a deal. And also that Europe has to stop buying energy from Russia, oil from Russia. He said this before launching towards UK, before flying towards UK, where he will have a state visit. This is allegedly second time an US president has been invited second time in this state level visitor. He's going to be treated by British aristocracy. And by the way, when we say British aristocracy, of course, we know that this is a headquarter. Let's say London is a headquarter, I will argue, of globalist movements, right? Because British aristocracy is a leading force among globalists, and definitely not the friends of America First people or the US. We all know this, and I'm afraid, well, globalists will have an easy ride on Trump's ears, right? In next several days. I don't know how long this Trump's visit is going to last in UK. Neither I care, by the way. But what is unfortunate, globally is going to have an easy ride on Trump's ears, and we should expect some tremendously controversial and hostile statements from Trump during these days that he is in UK and after. And after that, we will find out. But definitely, global is not going to miss out on this opportunity to influence Trump's inner circle that will be with him in UK, and to finalize US's involvement into this proxy war until their end, whatever that end is going to be, right? And I'm afraid they might succeed. Trump already demonstrated that, he is not consistent. Today he might say one thing, tomorrow something else, day after still something very different. So, well, we will find out. But yes, he is calling for Zelensky to make a deal. I wouldn't be surprised if today, later on, or tomorrow, he will say, well, forget about Zelensky. It's Putin that have to make a deal. It's Putin that have to come to our terms and agree on our terms, or something like that. We should expect big-time escalation, by the way, which is unfortunate, but I was talking about it for how long now? For very long, isn't it? That next phase of escalation is absolutely inevitable, unfortunately. And we have just too many indicators on that matter to be ignored. Anyways, let me continue. And if you think anybody is impressed among globalists or even globalist puppet regime in Kiev, or globalist proxy regime in Kiev with these demands of Trump that Zelensky has to make a deal, then no one is impressed. Opposite is happening actually, and Zelensky is setting new conditions for Trump. It's Zelensky that's setting conditions for Trump, by the way. I mean, that's how crazy the situation in the West is, and the relationships between different parties there, right? So let me give you some details here. So Vladimir Zelensky set the conditions for US President Donald Trump to resolve the conflict in Ukraine. He said this in an interview with the Sky News. We have quotes here: "Before we end the war, I really want their agreements to be concluded. I want to have a document that is supported by the US and all European partners. This is very important. For this to happen, we need a clear position from the President Trump," he said. The head of the Kyiv regime added that the only way to stop the fighting is to first put in place certain security guarantees. By the way, Zelensky during that interview went to criticize Trump, insult Trump actually in a big way. He was basically calling Trump indirectly a coward and stuff like that, because he's emboldened. He has a backing of the globalists, and he sees perfectly well that globalists do have a serious influence on Trump, in Trump's inner circle, and globalists have serious allies in the US. Democrats, Democrat establishment, and all the institutions, state institutions that have been infiltrated by the Democrats, right? And also neocons, by the way. So why would Zelensky be afraid of Trump or his administration? That actually is a joke at this point, right? So he's coming up with conditions for Trump, which is quite interesting. And as I said, dear friends, I would not be surprised at all if today or tomorrow Trump will begin making some crazy statements with the threats towards Russia again, as he have done already on numerous occasions. And meanwhile, seems like not maybe Trump is ignoring, maybe Trump is not briefed about what is going on in this world really, and what Zelensky is doing, for example, and how he's insulting Trump personally. I'm quite sure Trump has no freaking idea about it, but some American think tanks probably do pay close attention, right? Some American so-called media outlets, and Foreign Policy is one of them, seems like, and they come up with the article that Zelensky is losing touch with reality, which is quite interesting. I mean, this is very rare occasions when Foreign Policy, one of them, allegedly one of the most influential media group or think tank in the US is this critical of Zelensky, right? So let me go through details here. Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky and his closest advisors are losing touch with reality, as shown by a series of policy and legislative mistakes that have sparked public uproar. Foreign Policy reported on Tuesday, citing local analysts and experts. Ukrainian government recently attempted to push through two major measures designed to buttress their armed forces, but each spawned a backlash and raised the questions about whether their country's leadership is in tune with their concerns of ordinary Ukrainians, the outlet noted. The first of their measures was the draft law imposing sanctions for military insubordination, described by the Foreign Policy as a draconian. The legislation proposed that desertion or absence without leave carry up a prison term up to 12 years, with no amnesty even for a voluntary return. The bill triggered protests with their activists carrying placards reading "Army service is not slavery," prompting their authorities to withdraw the legislation. The second move relaxed martial law travel restrictions, but by allowing men aged between 12 and 22 to leave Ukraine. Martial law had previously barred all men aged between 18 and 60 to travel outside the country. Instead of relief, the reform stirred the concern that young men might live in large numbers, undermining future recruitment and worsening Ukraine's long-standing demographic problems. However, One of the most significant blunders of the Zelensky's team was attempt to crack down on anti-corruption bodies. This summer, Kiev attempted to strip their National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, NABU, and the Special Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, SAPO, of independence, citing Russian influence, but the move resulted in a mass protests, prompting the Ukrainian leadership to backpedal on their reform. Defense analyst Dmitry K told Foreign Policy that Zelensky's inner circle exists in a vacuum. They live in a bubble. Some advisors are very good, but they are obviously not getting a consistent flow of relevant information. An August poll by the Kiev International Institute of Sociology suggested that public trust in Zelensky has slumped by 7% in month, standing at 58. This is all fake news, by the way, fake numbers. About 58%, by the way. Zelensky barely has 10 to 15%. Zelensky barely has 10 to 15%, by the way. One have to be total psycho on Kiev-controlled territory to still be supporter of Zelensky, man. Their propaganda is not that good. So this is all, BS on part of foreign policy, right? While they are referring to these fake numbers here about Zelensky's rating. If he had a 58% or 60% or something like that, do you think he would refuse to conduct elections, presidential elections? His rating is 10 to 15%. He knows he has no freaking chances to win, to gain majority support. And that's why he is prolonging this martial law and maintaining power due to this martial law, right? But anyways, what I want to highlight is that foreign policy, which is yet again allegedly is one of the most influential think tanks in US, or so-called media outlets. It's a rare occasion when foreign policy is going after Zelensky this hard, like, isn't it? That Zelensky and his inner circle are losing touch with reality. Let's see what will come out of this. Earlier, I reported that number of media outlets in the West began targeting, that can be affiliated with Washington, began targeting Zaluzhny. German media even indicated that Zaluzhny was directly involved in terrorist attacks on the Nord Stream pipelines. And to me personally, that was an indicator. Those attacks were an indicator that Washington and London still have disagreements in regards to who's going to replace Zelensky. London is, of course, for Zaluzhny, but currently serving as Ukraine's ambassador in UK. But US, for many years now, there was always different report that US was preferring some other figures, right? Maybe this disagreement continues. Most likely this is the case. And this hit piece actually from foreign policy might be the part of this campaign of Washington to actually pressure London to say no to Zaluzhny's candidacy and agree on US's candidacy. Maybe this is the way. And when it comes to topic of who can be chosen by US, different rumors are circulating. One is a former general prosecutor of Ukraine. I forgot his freaking name. Other is current mayor of Kiev. Also, rumors are that Arestovich, former advisor of Zelensky, might actually have some sympathies in Washington and can be, move around by Washington as a potential replacement of Zelensky. So there is quite a number of individuals that Washington can actually choose, right? But seems like they are against not just Zelensky, but also against Zaluzhny. Let's see. Trump is in UK now. Trump arrived in London, isn't it? And will stay there for some time. And let's see which side will persuade which. I'm afraid globalists gonna be more successful in that, but who knows? We will find out in upcoming days. And dear friends, before I continue, let me highlight especially for new potential new members of the community, that this project only exists as long as I have your support or community support. And if you like my work, if you think I deserve to be in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support this work and this media project of mine. You can do it through several means. You can donate through PayPal or Boosty platforms, or you can subscribe to my Patreon page, which is tremendously important, by the way. If you ask me which way I would prefer to receive assistance, then, well, I will say Patreon for sure. Because it's a monthly subscription, and Patreon and also Boosty, by the way, allows me to know with what kind of funds I can rely on next month. While with donations, you just never know. Last 2 days, I only project only received like $10 donation. Yesterday there was a one of the members of our community, Miss Me with Ether, gifted their premium subscription on Rumble, and there was also a donation day before yesterday, $5 donation. So yeah, you see, I mean, you just never know with donations, sir. But if you have a strong support on Patreon or Boosty, that makes a difference, of course. So yes, anyways, you can support through PayPal, through Boosty with donations. You can subscribe to my Patreon page. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And when it comes to Rumble, by the way, during the streams, you can use what is the name, round feature or super chat feature, and also become premium subscriber there. That's being said, let me continue. And dear friends, I know this might be irritating for some when I'm every single video in every single update are talking about assisting the project, but that's what independent projects do, by the way. I mean, I'm not millionaire, otherwise I would not ask nobody for no support, right, to maintain this project. And so if you actually want independent project, then that's how it works, right? It's a community that supports it. If you find some projects that are freaking billionaires, then the question is, I mean, how, right? Anyways, let me continue now with some more news. And what is next here? You remember this story with the drones in Poland? Well, yesterday I reported that that Polish prime minister made a statement that drone was intercepted over the government buildings on Warsaw, in Warsaw, right? And two individuals were arrested. Tusk lied initially. He said that Belarusian citizens were arrested. In reality, turns out that one is a Belarusian citizen, another is a Ukrainian citizen, and we have some more details on that. So Polish authorities have identified the Ukrainian man and the Belarusian woman as the two individuals previously reported as detained over the drone that was neutralized in the government district of the Warsaw on Monday. Local media have reported, citing officials, their individuals were identified as 21-year-old Ukrainian man and their 17-year-old Belarusian woman. Jacek Dobrzyński, spokesman for the Special Services Minister, told reporters on Tuesday investigators have reportedly searched their homes while police are verifying their identities and the legal status in Poland. Dobrzyński downplayed speculations that this was some sort of a large-scale spy operation, but said it was too early to confirm any further details. These are young people. Perhaps it was due to carelessness, perhaps ignorance, perhaps because they wanted to make a film, he said, as quoted by Polsat News. So yes, Donald Tusk was already prime minister of Poland, by the way. I mean, that's his status, believe it or not. But that clown was very faster to put some fuel on this anti-Russian hysteria, and especially now after drone incident that was a false flag, in my personal opinion, of the globalists. And well, now they have to downplay importance of this particular report about drone being intercepted in Warsaw, because it seems like some young people were messing around, and probably they have nothing to do with some spy operation or anything like that. Anyways, remember earlier there was another incident with the drones, false flag, as I said. It was a NATO false flag operation, 100%. I think my take on the picture situation was and is that NATO countries were waiting for a relatively large launch of Russian drones. They then tried to divert number of drones from their direction, from their trajectory with their radio electronic warfare systems, and potentially they did manage to divert a couple of drones, maybe because remember Belarusian defense ministry stated that number of drones were diverted from their course. And at that night, it was 9th, isn't it? 9th of September or something. At that night, both sides were launching drones. So some of the drones were diverted due to radio electronic warfare. Belarusian defense ministry said that they intercepted some of these drones, loose drones, and provided information for Poland to react on others, right? And I believe what actually happened is that yes, they managed NATO countries, NATO secret services did manage to divert a couple of drones, but then they took drones themselves, drones that either look like Russian drones or were intercepted on the Kyiv controlled territory, but were not tremendously damaged. They reassembled those drones there. That's why these duct tapes were all over the drones, by the way, that we see on the pictures. And then they just took these drones and put in several places to launch this false flag operation that, well, look, Russia launched 19 drones intentionally to strike Poland. Interestingly, none of those drones had explosives, isn't it? And remember, at the time, Polish authorities were reporting that one of the drones struck civilian building, somewhere in the central Poland or something. And well, now we learning that no Russian drones or no drones in general struck no civilian building anywhere. It was a missile that was launched by F-16. On your screen right now, you see this damaged building, right? Roof is damaged there, some stuff is damaged there. And it was a AIM-120 AMRAAM missile launched by F-16 that actually struck this building. Poland was probably Polish Air Force or whoever launched this drone, by the way. This F-16 could be from, I don't know, Belgium or any other country, right? They launch missiles all over the places and eventually struck this civilian building. Report is that missile fired from F-16 aircraft fell on the house in Poland during the operation to destroy drones. Geopolitical writes, it was an AIM-120 AMRAAM air-to-air missile from our F-16 that had malfunctioned in its guidance system during the flight and did not fire. Fortunately, it did not explode because the fuse worked. The publication reported citing sources in their services involved in their investigation. And, well, I don't know, by the way. Look at the building. The roof is almost completely destroyed. So I don't think this missile just failed on the roof and this kind of damage was caused by that. Probably it exploded there, right? During the impact. That's from where this damage is coming. But it was a Polish, allegedly, according to this newspaper, it was a Polish F-16 that launched this missile, right? And when it comes to drones, by the way, I'm telling you, maybe one or two drones of Russian origin were actually diverted by radio electronic warfare system. Maybe not. Maybe it was these drones, all of them were launched from Kyiv-controlled territory, and some of them were intercepted by Belarusian air defense systems, as their defense ministry said, and the rest just end up in Poland. Very dodgy story, isn't it? Very dodgy story, by the way, with this. If it was a false flag operation of the NATO, it was organized and executed tremendously poorly, by the way. Probably all of us will agree on that. Anyways, let me continue. US approves 2 batches of weapons for Europe. The State Department approved yesterday sale to Belgium of AIM-9X missiles and to Norway GBU-39 bombs for a total of $681 million, more than a half, nearly 560, namely 567.8 million is a contract for 578 AIM-9X missiles in 2 variations, and remaining 130 million is for 816 bombs with which Norway will equip its F-35s. In addition, the contract costs include training, equipment, technical support, and more. So yes, US military-industrial complex is making quite a good buck, by the way, on this anti-Russian hysteria that is generated all over Europe, and they are selling their stuff to everybody. They don't care. They just simply don't care. And as long as the US economy is not being reformed, as long as the economical system, political system in US has not been reformed, by the way, this crime against humanity gonna continue. When US is seeking destabilization and wars all over the world because they have to feed this monster that US military-industrial complex is, right? And even though US itself is allocating $1 trillion, more than $1 trillion for 2026, by the way, for the Pentagon, this monster I mean, cannot be, that's not enough for this monster, that for US military-industrial complex. They want more. They want more. And I don't know, and America First people probably understand what has to be done. They have to, they have to do a revolution, by the way. They have to destroy this monster. It's their fight. It's their fight, by the way. If they want to reclaim their own country, they have to destroy military-industrial complex. They have to reform their own economy and the tremendously corrupt political system, by the way. There is not even a single decent human being in US political system. Can you imagine that? Not even a single decent human being. And why is that? Because the system is corrupt, tremendously corrupt system does not allow existence of a decent people there, right? That's how it is. And just to complain that, well, US is in bad shape and US economy is in bad shape, and no matter who you choose during the elections, nothing is changing. I mean, we all hear all these complaints from the US, right? But fight, for God's sake. Only complaints not going to change nothing. You see, you cannot change the system from within, because for whomever you are voting, that someone is already part of a system, right? And that means corrupt and led by groups of interests like military-industrial complex, or APAC, or Zionists, or neocons, or globalists, or whomever, but they are not led by your interests or the interests of the American people. It's just too freaking simple, isn't it? So I don't know how Americans going to reclaim their country if they have enough will and courage to actually do something about it. But if they continue to be passive, then they're going to lose country completely. Because US is going, in that case, US will go down together with Europe, by the way. And Europe has no future. I mean, continental Europe and UK, I mean, they just have no future, by the way. I would recommend all hardworking, law-obeying people in Europe to migrate until it's not too late. To migrate until it's not too late, because in 20, 30 years' time, Europe going to be in very sad place, in very dark place. It's just too obvious, man. Maybe earlier than that. Let's continue with some other news. And of course, this war against Russia, proxy war against Russia, trade war against Russia, economical war, this war and that war. Collective West is going crazy, by the way. And we have this reporter that, according to Besant, US won't hit China with the tariffs over the Russian oil unless Europe goes First, Americans are, seems like US elites are actually pushing globalist control Europe to commit suicide faster. They are committing suicide already, but Washington is demanding process to be accelerated. So European elites or European economies to kill themselves faster. So Ukrainian conflict could be over in 60 to 90 days if EU introduces secondary tariffs on countries buying Russian oil. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told Reuters and Bloomberg in a joint interview, US would not impose new tariffs on China unless EU does their share to cut off Russian oil revenues, he's saying. And, well, Europe might actually go ahead, by the way, and accelerate the suicide that they are committing. They might actually go ahead. Bessent is, of course, moron, by the way. No, if Russia will stop exporting any oil right now, today, and what? I mean, Russia will have enough power, economical power, to maintain the fight in this proxy war that West is waging against us, as long as as long as it's necessary, by the way, right? And so this attitude, this narrative that Russia is a gas station, and if you cut oil money or gas money, country gonna collapse, man. I mean, this narrative, it works in the Western public, it works in the West, but it's does not impress nobody in this world. 75 to 80% of income of Russia is from non-oil and gas industries. And I have reported about it with the numbers, isn't it? On several occasions. So Bessent is just freaking moron, man. Nowadays, I really struggle to find a single person in the leadership of Western countries that actually has education, good enough education. Just because Bessent was somewhat successful in speculations on financial markets does not mean that he's either well-informed or intellectual. He was just speculating. He's a good liar, maybe. Maybe he had some connections and he had some insider knowledge, and he traded successfully based on this inside knowledge, which is not something new, by the way. Almost all US senators, all US congressmen, all US officials are using their position to gain some knowledge in regards to this company or that company, and they are actively trading on the stock exchanges, isn't it? And making millions, and in some cases, probably billions, right? So just because this criminal, Scott Bessent, was more or less successful in financial world does not mean that he has any freaking understanding of anything about this world, man. He is a clearly freaking moron. RT is also reporting that Trump gonna speak to China this Friday. So on one hand, his Treasury Secretary is threatening China with more sanctions, this time from Europe, and Washington is pushing Brussels to come up with these sanctions. On the other hand, Trump is announcing that, and for quite a while now, that he's going to have a phone conversation with Chinese leader. What they're going to talk about, I wonder. Why Chinese leader is wasting time to talk to Trump? That's one question. And what they're going to discuss. Whether in Beijing, anyways, let me give you information, little details on that. US President Donald Trump has announced an upcoming phone call with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping this week. The two leaders are expected to finalize a deal on the social media platform TikTok, according to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. I mean, that's all Trump managed to do, man. It's embarrassing, isn't it? He is like 7 or 8 months now in office, and all he managed to do with China is to come up with some deal in regards to freaking TikTok. This is insanity, man. This is insanity. Okay. The remarks came after the latest round of US-China trade talks in Spain held aimed to strain their relations, and the looming divestiture deadline for the app that TikTok, owned by Chinese company ByteDance. We have quote here: "I will be speaking to President Xi on Friday," Trump wrote on Truth Social on Monday, noting that the latest meeting has gone very well and will be concluding shortly. He added that the deal was reached on a certain company that young Americans very much want to save. Speaking to reporters in Madrid, Besant confirmed that their sides had agreed to a framework for a TikTok deal and that Trump's call with the Xi would complete their agreement. I mean, this is crazy, man. Xi Jinping gonna talk about freaking TikTok? I mean, Trump, okay, that's a different sort of individual, by the way. Lightweight, right? But Xi Jinping is a heavyweight. He gonna talk about freaking TikTok? I don't know, man. This is embarrassing. This is embarrassing for China. If Xi Jinping gonna waste time talking about freaking TikTok with the U.S. president, then and then present this to be some freaking success, then wow, Beijing, well done. I mean, for Trump, anything is big deal. I mean, Trump is, as I said, he's a lightweight freaking clown that can act any way he wants, right? And none of us are surprised by this, but I expect little more serious approach from Chinese leaders. What freaking TikTok, man? Who cares about TikTok? What are you talking about? Countries are in a trade war, right? Tariffing each other big time. And they're going to talk about TikTok? Wow. Okay, man. I mean, this is just too crazy, really, to even take seriously. Let them talk about TikTok and I don't know, Instagram also. They can discuss Instagram, latest updates on Instagram too. That will be very helpful for US-China relationships. They can talk about YouTube too. There is a platform here in Russia, YouTube. It gains momentum, and there is Max, another one. Alternative, it's been presented as an alternative to, what the hell is the name of that? WhatsApp. And there is tens of millions of users on Max already. I have to make a creator account, by the way, on Max. I don't have it yet. I will. And so Chinese president, Chinese leader, and Trump can talk about Max too. I mean, why not? They should open accounts there, for sure. Unbelievable, man. This is too clownish, really, to talk seriously, man. Anyways, meanwhile, European Commission's head discussed increasing economic pressure on Russia with Trump. Let me give you details. So, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen reported a good conversation with US President Donald Trump about cooperation to increase economic pressure on Russia through additional measures. The Commission will soon present 19th package of sanctions targeting cryptocurrencies, banks, and energy. The head of the European Commission wrote on Tuesday evening on the social network X. Von der Leyen noted that the European Commission will propose accelerating the phase-out of imports of the Russian fossil fuels according to their established procedure. The European Commission's proposals on sanctions are sent to the authorities of the EU countries for discussion and approval. The consent of all EU countries is required to approve the sanctions package. And dear friends, I read on one of the media outlets this morning that because EU understands, these unelected bureaucrats understand that some more sanctions they put on Russia, more laughable they look worldwide, and those sanctions do more harm to European economy than Russia. They are considering now to sanction Chinese companies under the pressure of Washington. As I said, this pressure from Washington on Brussels to accelerate the suicide of European economy is kind of working. And this morning I read a number of news with reports that European bureaucrats actually considering to sanction Chinese companies, right? They are not yet ready to impose tariffs on 100% or 50% tariffs on China or India or Brazil or any other Russian trade partner, but they're going to go ahead most likely and sanction Chinese companies, on which China will retaliate, and retaliating with such a force, I guess, that Brussels will be in a shock for quite a while after that, because Beijing not going to allow these freaking morons to mess around. There's no way, by the way. EU sanctions a couple of Chinese companies. Chinese will sanction a couple of dozens of European companies and will destroy them quite effectively. Literally, they will destroy these couple of dozens of European companies that will have no future whatsoever, no chances to survive after those Chinese sanctions. That's how heavily they are relied on China. But anyways, let's see what is going to happen. Very same von der Leyen is same time, dear friends, facing two no confidence motions. Politico is reporting about it. So European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is set to face two separate no confidence votes at the EU Parliament early October. Politico reported on Tuesday, citing an internal email from their legislator, President Roberta Metsola. Motions are scheduled to be debated during the plenary session for October 6 to 9. The motions submitted against von der Leyen, a divisive figure in Brussels, come from both right and the left, the Patriots for Europe and the left parliamentary groups. So let's see if they will manage to remove this individual from position of President of European Commission. I doubt they will succeed her, because the globalists most likely still have some plans for her. So they will keep her in Brussels for the time being, and then probably she will be moved to position of President of Germany. I guess so. Let's see what's going to happen. But while she is head of EU, formal head of EU, she continues to do whatever she can to destroy European economies and lives of the European people. Our team, meanwhile, is reporting that India and US resumed trade talks after halt. India and US negotiators held a new round of negotiations over their bilateral trade deal on Monday, just weeks after President Donald Trump slapped punitive 50% tariffs on Indian exports. US Trade Representative for South Asia, Brandon Lynch, headed up their American delegation in New Delhi. Following the talks, India's Ministry of Commerce and the industry characterized their discussions as a positive and forward-looking. Both sides agreed to intensify efforts to reach a mutually beneficial trade agreement as soon as possible. New Delhi added, although these were their first talks since the new tariffs on India exports took effect. Monday's negotiations mark a continuation of a process that started after Trump took office, and some delegations from two countries are in the talks, but this would not have any positive outcome for sure. Not now. It's not possible. I reminded your friends that these officials from US are forcing European countries and EU to tariff China and India and Brazil and others with 50 to 100% tariffs. So it is highly unlikely that New Delhi and Washington will find common ground anytime soon. It's not happening. And meanwhile, Lindsey Graham is again making headlines, US Senator, and he is threatening two NATO states over Russian oil. He is done with threatening China, India, Brazil, and all the other BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation Organization member states, all the trade partners of Russia. And now he is threatening NATO member states. So US Senator Lindsey Graham has threatened Hungary and Slovakia with consequences if they do not halt purchases of Russian oil. Republican from South Carolina issued a warning after President Donald Trump renewed calls for NATO states to end energy imports from Moscow, in apparent frustration over the pace of peace talks between Moscow and Kiev. The president was right to demand the Europe stop buying Russian oil, Graham wrote on X. On Monday, he conceded that the EU had largely done so, adding it was now virtually down to Hungary and Slovakia to step up their plate soon. If not, consequences should and will follow, he warned. So, okay, by the way, let's see how Budapest and Bratislava will react on these new threats from the West. In this particular case, from Washington, from Lindsey Graham, if they will pay any attention to it at all, right? But I mean, only question I have, by the way, why it's just Hungary and Slovakia? Practically all European countries are buying Russian oil and oil products directly or indirectly through third parties, fourth parties. But anyways, they do buy Russian oil anyways, right? Hungary and Slovakia just being honest. They just being honest. They buy it openly and are not messing around. While other countries are using some third parties for it. So what is going on there? What kind of game is that? And then it's not just oil, isn't it? Russia is one of the biggest LNG suppliers for EU still, right? And for example, France is one of the biggest buyers of Russian LNG. So why Lindsey Graham is not threatening France? Or maybe he just had no freaking idea, actually, what is going on in energy sector of the Europe. And probably this is the case, isn't it? He just has no idea what is going on. Morons, man. What kind of future US gonna has, man? I mean, you tell me, with people like that being representatives of this country. It's a shame, man. It's a shame. What has I think very different ideas were behind the creation of the US, and the founding fathers of this country were hoping for something very different than US has become. They probably would be tremendously ashamed of the US if they will see it now. Tremendously ashamed, man. Anyways, let's continue. And I remind you that while, for example, Trump or Lindsey Graham or others from the US are threatening European countries, let's say, with sanctions and whatever, and forcing them to cut ties with Russia, and also threatening China, countries of the BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation Organization, let's say. US itself continues to cooperate with Russia in energy field. And yesterday I reported, isn't it? And quite a few times before that US continues to buy Russian enriched uranium and is in no position to stop doing this, right? In upcoming years even to come, potentially decade. So why Lindsey Graham or Trump are not addressing this issue? Why they are not addressing this issue? Why they still are buying Russian enriched uranium? It's a legit question, isn't it? So, as I reported yesterday, United States is not yet in a position to completely stop buying enriched uranium from Russia. This was stated by U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright. So this is official statement that comes from U.S. administration, Energy Secretary, right? So yet again, this is not double standards, triple standards. This is just madness and insanity that we observe among the Western elites, really. And there is a say, isn't it, that I cannot remember exactly how that say goes, but it is like if God wants to punish someone, God takes mind of that person away. And it seems like God is punishing Western elites, man. He took their minds away, and they all went freaking insane as a result. Don't you think? You know, Middle East, dear friends. Israel is launching massive offensive on Gaza city, and Israel never stopped attacking Gaza Strip in general. And Yesterday, I saw a number of videos with large columns of armored vehicles entering the Gaza city. Also, I saw videos of thousands and thousands of civilians fleeing Gaza. But where they're gonna flee, that's the question. They cannot leave Gaza Strip, and they are moving from one place to another, then to another, then to another, and they are basically walking around Gaza Strip in circles while being hunted down and killed and exterminated by Israeli forces. Reports are that already more than 300,000 civilians, Palestinian civilians, have been killed. Yesterday, UN Independent Commission stated after inquiry that Israel is committing genocide. And in response, Israel demanded this commission to be dissolved. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But even though Israeli regime is acting with impunity for now, I think soon situation is going to change. They are targeting not just Palestinians, by the way. They are killing civilians in Syria, in Lebanon. They are killing people in Qatar too nowadays, and also in Yemen. On your screen, you can see right now aftermath of yet another Israeli strike on Yemeni port of Hodeidah. But yet again, if anybody in Israel thinks they're gonna go on forever with these crimes and pay no consequences, they are mistaken big time, because awakening is happening in this world. A little step by step, little by little, but awakening is happening, and there are gonna be consequences for all the crimes that Israel and Israelis committed. And on the matter, I have this report that European Commission, I guess under the pressure, increased pressure of the public in European countries, proposes lifting duty-free regime for a part of Israeli exports, for example. So the European Commission is proposing to end the customs duty exemptions granted under the association agreement to 37% of Israeli goods exported to the EU. This was stated by EU diplomacy chief Kaja Kallas in an interview with Euronews. Statement is, of course, not actual policy. Let's see if Brussels will go ahead with this move and actually take stand against this fascist regime that is in charge of Israel. Let's see, we will find out. But pressure on bureaucrats definitely is increasing all over the Western countries, by the way. Countries that actually might have some leverage and do have some leverage in certain cases over their fascist Israel. Spain, yesterday, I reported that Spain canceled military contracts on supply of weapons and munition to Israel for over $1 billion. Other countries have to do the same. Other Western countries have to do the same, at least in Europe. US will never stop aiding Israel, no matter what kind of, how tremendous or horrendous crimes Israel is committing, because US is controlled by Israel. I mean, let's be real here. US is controlled by Israel, 100%. US is an Israeli proxy, basically. But when it comes to Europe, situation is a bit different. Zionists never had that easy time in Europe as they do in US, right? There was always some tensions between certain European elites and the Zionist groups, right? And therefore, I mean, Spain is an example of that, by the way. For example, right? I think more and more countries in Europe might be forced, elites of the European countries might be forced to listen to their public and take some stance against this fascist entity that modern Israel is. And eventually, you know my take on Israel. I think world community will get together at one point and under UN or under whatever institution, under the umbrella of whatever institution, most likely under UN, it should be done if possible. And Israel has to be demilitarized, and by whole world, by the way. Israel as a fascist entity has to be demilitarized and denazified. This is the only way we can stop this fascists killing everybody. That's it, man. Majority of Israelis are fascists, and I'm not exaggerating, by the way. They've been indoctrinated in some psycho ideology. They don't consider anybody except their tiny group to be human beings. They are not treating nobody as a humans. If you think they treat Christians any better than they treat Muslims, you are being mistaken big time. I mean, check the videos, by the way, on internet. You'll be shocked, right? How badly they are treating Christians and how many Christians they killed in the Gaza Strip, by the way. And I remind you that Palestinians and Christian communities in Arab world, by the way, one of the oldest Christian communities on this planet, right? Because from where Jesus is coming from Middle East, right? And he was not a freaking Indo-European as majority of us, right? On a European part of the continent. He was a Semite. He was Arab, right? He was Arab. He was not Jewish, as some say, because Jewish is, being Jewish means being part of Judaism religion, right? Jewish is not ethnic identity of the people. It's a religion, Judaism, right? And the people that have that religion called the Jews, not the ethnic group somewhere, right? And Jesus was not a Jew. He was speaking Aramaic, I believe, right? And in Syria, until nowadays, by the way, there is a small town where people still, and one of the oldest, if not the oldest churches in this world, and people there still speak Aramaic. Very few people left in this world that still speak language that Jesus was speaking, right? So, yes, anyways, man, that's my take. Our world has to get together one way or another and stop this fascist entity that Israel is, put it in the borders of 1946, if anything, put it in borders of 1946, and denazify. And this denazified Israeli society have to pay compensations for decades and decades and decades to come to everybody that they harm in past decades. That's it. That's how it has to be done if we as a human civilization have any dignity. Period. On the topic, Netanyahu seems like, getting their memos that they went just way too far. And he had a meeting with the finance ministry or something, and he began warning everybody and warning Israel, basically, that they have to get used to isolation. So Israel will have to reshape its economy to withstand their sweeping sanctions and the boycotts. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned on Sunday, speaking at the finance ministry's annual accountant general conference in Jerusalem. Netanyahu said, mounting international pressure over the Gaza war is pushing the country towards economic self-sufficiency. We will increasingly have to adapt to an economy with autarkic, whatever that is, features. He said, I believe in free markets. I worked to bring Israel a free market revolution, but we may find ourselves in a situation where our defense industries are blocked. We will have to develop domestic defense industries. We will have to become Athens and the super Sparta. These freaking psychos, man. We have no choice, at least in the coming years. We will have to deal with these attempts at isolation. What worked until now will not work from now on, Netanyahu said. And well, I don't think isolationism will help her. Israel, world community will, humanity, if humanity has any dignity, will never forgive crimes that Israel is committed against innocent Palestinian people. And they will come when Israelis will pay a price for it. Simple as that, right? They committed horrendous crimes against humanity, and humanity will force them to pay for this. That's it. Israel will be demilitarized and denazified. I have no doubts about it. If Israel will survive at all as a state, which is not guaranteed, of course. After all the crimes that they committed, by the way, I can assume very many people in this world will say, you know what, let's demilitarize Israel and, you know what, denazify and then create some confederation in the area or something, right? That will be no Israel, will be confederation of some sort, but not Israel. This might well be the future of the area there, right? And meanwhile, if you think, dear friends, that Israel or its main ally, US, main ally in the genocide, US, are only focused on killing Palestinians, you are wrong. You are wrong. They are also actively working together with the globalists to provoke another war with Iran, because I said many times before that globalists, neocons, they want a regional war in the Middle East, ever more than before, especially now, when after what Israel has committed, and all the countries in the region and worldwide, all the societies at least, right, are turned against Israel, right? Regional war in the Middle East is definitely direction that they will push, and with different agendas, by the way. Israel will pursue a different agenda, neocons different, globalists different, but they are on the same page in terms of provoking regional war. And Bannon, one of the leading voices in the MAGA movement in the US, did spoke about it, and he said that if anybody thinks the situation around Iran is finished, no, think again. Certain groups
Rubio's in the middle in Israel right now, and trust me, my sources are impeccable. They're still pushing regime change in Iran. Yep. Don't think you added this one by a long shot.
You see, he is well informed, isn't it? This person is well informed, and he's saying that his sources are telling him that it's gonna be regime change attempt, right, of regime change in Iran, and in reality they are pushing for regional war. In reality, they are pushing for regional war. I said many times before that globalists and neocons want a regional war there to cut off China from to shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf and cut off China from Middle Eastern energy sources. And they're not going to stop until they are either forced to stop or they will succeed. That's it. So yes, we should keep in mind that Iran's story is definitely not yet over. What else do I have bookmarked for you, dear friends? Well, speculations on Israeli role in the killing of Charlie Kirker, U.S. permanent voice in the conservative aisle, continues, And Candace Owens, another prominent figure in the conservative side, continues to share some videos that indicates that even though Charlie Kirk was known as a big supporter of Israel, lately he was changing his attitude kind of, and there are speculations are that this scared the Israeli side. This scared the Zionist Israeli regime, because if they're gonna lose a conservative support also in US, then they're gonna lose US. They're gonna lose control eventually over the US, right? So to shut down these critical voices now and potentially as long as possible, speculations are that they orchestrated hit on Charlie Kirk. I can give you some video, by the way, when Kirk himself is talking about Israel. Let's listen to it.
American citizen. Yes, I want Israel to win. Yes, I'm a Christian. But some of the mess,
and what? If you are Christian, then okay, good. Protect Christians everywhere. And if you are a good Christian, protect everybody everywhere. If Christianity is teaching us anything, is to be good human being, kind to everyone, right? Christianity is not teaching us that be kind only to Christians. No, man. You only can be a good human being if you are kind in general, period. So what is this nonsense here? Oh, yes, I am Christian, I support Israel. No, man, I am Christian, I am Orthodox Christian, and I don't support those fucking fascists that Israelis has become. And anyways, let's listen what this person had to say.
I mean, you've seen how I've been treated, Megan, by some, not all, by some.
No, it's very irritating.
It's almost as if
this was an episode of interview of Charlie Kirk with Megyn Kelly, by the way, like on 6th of September, just recently.
Unfair. They were coming after you after a turning point.
Or maybe in August. Sorry, it was in August, I guess.
For among other things, that you had Dave Smith there. Dave Smith is allowed to criticize Israel. You had both.
So you see there, friends, what is going on. Charlie Kirk was attacked, basically, allegedly for giving a platform or on his Turning Point USA to people like Dave Smith, who is a big critic of criminal actions of Israel regime, and he is a Jewish body. Dave Smith is a Jewish person, and that's why I always say, let's never ever generalize, right? Israeli society is a different, because they live in certain conditions, and they've been indoctrinated in certain ideologies that is not universal for all the Jewish people, right? So let's always keep that in mind and never ever allow anybody around us or ourselves to lose the objectiveness, right? And to begin framing in certain ways whole community, because that would be a bad mistake, and that will put us in a dark place. We cannot generalize on the matter, right? So because he invited Dave Smith, by the way, he was attacked, criticized, how dare you, right? And he's explaining this situation. And also rumors are that a few days, little earlier than before he was killed, Zionist groups approached him, AIPAC approached him and wanted to kind of do some financial support in return of something, right? And he refused. Allegedly, he refused. And then we know what happened, right? And yesterday, by the way, Charlie Kirk's show was led by Daily Wire staff, right? Ben Shapiro and others, Mike Knowles and other freaks. And you know what they did? They poured in $1 million as a donation to the project. So one might assume, well, Zionists had it. Zionists are in control of daily this Turning Point USA now, and Charlie Kirk's project. They get it, right? But anyways, let's listen to this short video.
The Israeli side was
you're not allowed to,
overrepresented.
though. No, you're not allowed to. It's even worse than that. Again, I just want to repeat for the 5th time. I love Israel. I want Israel to win. But my moral character is now being put into question, Megan. Not my decisions. Not like, hey, are you doing this? Is it smart or is it dumb? But no, I am a bad person if I do this. And I could go, I mean, you saw it, Megan. It was trending on Twitter, thousands of tweets and text messages. And if I were to be charitable and generous, I will say the people that are attacking me are in a hyper-paranoid state because they're at war, and war tends to make things black and white, and you're a hammer looking for a nail. So I'm trying to be charitable, Megan. Literally, I'm trying to cut as much slack as I can, right? Like, okay, what would it be like if all of a sudden I'm starting to see a pattern of behavior similar to what my grandparents saw in 1930s Germany online? How would I behave? So that's like my charitable kind of overcompensation spirit. At the same time, I'm like, but it's not defensible to be dumb, right?
So you see, by the way, so rumors continue to circulate. Rumors continue to circulate that, well, because of the alleged or potential shift of this quite popular, as far as I can tell. I did not watch his video. I did not pay much attention to Charlie Kirk. I know who the person is from some videos, few videos that I have seen, right? But I would not definitely spend like hour or two to watch his show. I did not even knew he had a show, by the way, to be honest, right? But I knew there was such a figure in US that was popular. And, well, allegedly, due to a certain shift in his thinking, he was taken down. And speculations are that Israel was behind it. Of course, there is no actual evidences for that. It's all speculations, by the way. But I think it's a possibility. I think this fascist Israel is capable of absolutely anything, right? Literally, absolutely anything. By the way, any atrocity, any crime, and this will be the case until these fascist entities are demilitarized and denazified, right? But nevertheless, at this point, evidences that Israel had something to do with it is not there. Maybe they were behind it, maybe not. But speculation is not going to stop. By the way, speculation is not going to stop. And I believe Tucker Carlson was also somewhat critical of attempt of Israeli Prime Minister, to turn this tragic death of Charlie Kirk into some sort of a public relations operation for Israel, for himself and Israel. And many people, I believe, are upset about it in the US itself, right? Anyways, dear friends, couple of more news, and that's going to be it for a news segment. RIA Novosti is reporting that Ministry of Industry and the Trade shared with the public information here in Russia that Moscow has leased land from Egypt for an industrial zone for 49 years. On your screen right now, you can see maquette of this industrial area, how it will look once developed. It's a port, it's industrial capabilities all over the place. Manufacturing capability is going to be there. So something, it's going to be manufacturing a logistical hub, sort of, as far as I can tell. And contract is on 49 years, by the way, which is a big deal, of course. Egypt has a strategical importance, geographically speaking. The tax and the customs duty regime for Russian companies participating in the Russian industrial zone in Egypt is unique. It is enshrined in an intergovernmental agreement and cannot be changed for 49 years. The lease period for the zone's land plot, said Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade Roman Chekushev. On Monday and Tuesday, a Russian delegation of businessmen and representatives of the Chamber of the Commerce and the Industry, led by Deputy Prime Minister Alexei Averchuk, visited the site of Russian industrial zone in Egypt. Over the course of this year, we agreed with the Egyptian side on absolutely all the terms for locating production facilities and in Egypt. The zone will be located in the city of Ain Sokhna in the Gulf of Suez of the Red Sea at the southern end of Suez Channel. It has an excellent logistical location, Chekushev told reporters following their visit. He noted that all participants in the business mission noted that the complete infrastructure and their excellent access roads, the Suez-Hurghada highway, which adjoins the land plot, and the railway lines. All utility lines have been fully connected to the land parcel's boundary, and it must be said that the taxation and the customs duty regime is, of course, unique to our Russian residents. It is enshrined in an intergovernmental agreement and is not subject to change for 49 years. This is their period for which we have leased their land parcels in the Suez Channel, Chekushev stated. And well, this is a big project, isn't it? Intergovernmental project. It's going to be potentially, maybe tens of billions of dollars of Russian investments into this project and some other projects in Egypt. And by the way, hopefully they have taken in account all the potential risks for the Middle East, right? Because, globalists, neocons, Zionists, they are about to, in my personal opinion, launch or try at least to provoke a regional war in the Middle East. And if they succeed, they're going to shut down navigation, not just in the Persian Gulf, but probably they will try to shut down navigation in Red Sea too. And in that case, how successful these investments in Egypt are going to be if that crisis in the Middle East will continue for years and years and years. I don't know, but I think geopolitical risks should be also taken in account big time, by the way. And they do probably take in account those risks. I don't know. Let's see. Also, TASS News Agency is reporting that Rospatent has temporarily denied the Renault, French automaker, Renault's application for registration of the Renault trademark, which is interesting. Renault was a partner of the Russian AutoVAZ, a company, car manufacturer, and they ran away in 2022. Renault ran away in 2022 under the pressure of the government, right? They left their consumers here in Russia. They betrayed consumers here in Russia, and hopefully Russia will not allow this company to come back. Any company that betray trust of Russian consumers should never ever be allowed to come back on Russian market and make even single penny here. And Russian car market is doing quite well without presence of the French cars, for sure. By the way, right? So yes, this is good. This is news that I do like, actually. All the companies that and AutoVAZ, by the way, Russian partner of this French company, was for number of for quite significant time experiencing serious difficulties because of the decision of Renault to cut the ties this fast. They just run away. While other companies acted very differently, Renault just literally ran away, and hopefully they would not ever come back on Russian market. Let them sell their cars in France, by the way. Good luck with that, right? But not here in Russia. At least that's my hope. We will see. In any case, by the way, Western car manufacturers or car manufacturers from the collective West countries that left Russian market gonna find it tremendously difficult to regain any share on the market anyways, if all of them are allowed to come back one day, because market is full, and well, what can I say? Chinese business, by the way, used this unique chance 110%, and they flooded Russian market with their cars that, in many cases, maybe not in all cases, but in many cases can quite effectively compete with the cars from the collective West. I'm not saying that budget or medium level Chinese cars are on the same level as European budget or medium level cars, price wise, at least budget ones. But Chinese are doing tremendous progress. Chinese car manufacturers are achieving tremendous progress, by the way, and their cars are becoming more and more reliable, and are more and more ready for Russian geography and Russian conditions. They are learning Russian climate, because a car in Sochi gonna behave very differently than in our car gonna last in Sochi or Krasnodar or Rostov in southern regions, different period than in the northern Russian regions, right? So Chinese are learning, Chinese car manufacturers, and learning fast, and they are adapting. And they're not gonna allow companies, car manufacturers from Europe or elsewhere to push them around on the Russian market, because it's a lucrative market, by the way. I just reported a couple of weeks ago, isn't it, that in 2024, China exported in Russia 1.1 million cars. 1.1 million cars, by the way. So it's a big deal, isn't it? It's a big deal. And before car manufacturers from collective West ran away from Russia, they were dominating on the Russian market, basically. So, and they were exporting this million car, not the Chinese. But now things change. So, yeah, let's see how it's gonna go. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Russia to have an analog of a Starlink system, according to head of Roscosmos. So Russia will have an analog of their American Starlink system, said Dmitry Bakanov, CEO of Roscosmos. We will soon give you our terminal, he said on air at Solovyov Live. This is how he responded to host Vladimir Solovyov, who said that Russian troops, just like the Ukrainian armed forces, use terminals developed in the United States. Bakanov said that soon we will have a Russian analog, and I'm not at all surprised, because I know there are several companies here in Russia that already have launched satellites, by the way. They are in the testing phase right now. They have high-speed internet. They are testing the system, and soon I guess they will have enough orbiting group that they will provide their satellite internet to most of Russia, maybe even whole of Russia. And of course, this grouping of satellites have to increase on regular basis, and it will of course play significant positive role. It will assist Russian militaries and also civilians, by the way, because Starlink analog of the Starlink will be, will have both directions, military implication and civilian implication, as Starlink does. So soon, maybe 2026, 27, before end of this decade, most likely we will have something similar, by the way, to Starlink. That will initially probably will provide internet on Russian territory, and then it will go beyond that. RIA Novosti is also reporting, and I will end our news segment on this interesting news, dear friends, that Georgia, former Soviet Republic, has fully repaid its historical debt to Russian Federation. So Georgia has completed the repayment of its external debt to Russia, according to statistics from the Republic's Ministry of Finance. It is noted that in February, the debt to Russia decreased from 7.8 million to 3.9 million. This figure remained in the debt column for February to August. As of August, the foreign debt column to Russia has a dash. So there is no more debt that Georgia has towards Russia. Same time, overall Georgian debt to Russia was $160 million. And over the years, interests and the percentages and so on will amount to $225 million that Georgia paid back. Simultaneously, Georgia, in addition to Russia, Georgia has fully paid off its long-standing debt to Turkey, Kazakhstan, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Iran. The Ministry of Finances of Georgia reported that the country's total public debt as of August 2025 amounted to over $9 billion, which is nothing really. Georgia owns the most to France, over 850 million. Well, Georgia is a tiny republic, by the way, right? A tiny Soviet republic, and therefore numbers are, of course, different than US debt, for example, which is in trillions, right? Dozens of trillions. And the overall debt of Georgia is $9 billion, which is really peanuts. I mean, nothing, right? So it is what it is. Interesting news, isn't it? And I just spot this report and I said, because quite often I've been asked to share information about some other former Soviet republics, including about Georgia. I said, why not? Let's share this news. It is interesting one, and that's about it for today's news segment. Hopefully, you did find it informative and interesting, useful. And now, because there was no super chat or any donation during the stream, as it was case yesterday and day before yesterday. Yesterday we had our new premium subscriber though. So let me join community chat, by the way. I will just scroll to top of the chat here. And before I start, let me highlight a few comments from Patreon, by the way. I mentioned yesterday that from two new members of our Patreon community, I have received questions, and yesterday I was struggling with time and I was unable to react on the questions. I will do it today. So, and then I will join community chat. So, as Scooby is asking, are all Russian cities as nice and clean like this? A comment was under the video, extra content on Patreon from Streets of Moscow, and Scooby is also commenting. There is a YouTuber called Kurt Kasser who travels the world to dangerous or developing places to capture content. Lately, he's been doing videos in European nations, which evidently have become just the kind of places he gets his content. Frankfurt and Paris, German and French cities, were the most recent ones, I believe. crime, poverty, drugs, litter and graphic, etc. It's quite surprising to see how these places have degraded over time. And well, I have seen quite a lot of videos, by the way, from Western European states, cities, from US also, where there is this entire blocks that better you don't go, at least without police escort or security, because it's just too freaking dangerous. It's dirty. It's degenerated infrastructure, buildings that they look like no one has done anything to rebuild or do some renovation for decades and decades and decades. And also issue of drug addicts that taking over their entire blocks, homelessness and so on. Well, you're not gonna see nothing like that in Russian cities, by the way. No, it's not just in Moscow that administration is paying great deal of attention to infrastructure and to make sure that cities looks good and there is good and safe, right, for residents. But all the other cities, administrations have their duties, right? And if and when, let's say, societies are not happy, by the way, it will not take long before either on a governor's level of the region or in some cases on the level of a federal government, decision is made to remove incompetent leaders. Things like that happened, of course. Russia is the biggest country in this world, by the way, so you can imagine how many cities are here and there are how many small towns and villages. Unfortunately, very many cities are losing people. That's probably the biggest issue. In the provinces, people are from the provinces, people are moving towards the bigger cities like Moscow, St. Petersburg, Ekaterinburg, Kazan, and others, right? And this process weakens provinces elsewhere, of course. But I don't know what can be done about it, right? Probably something can be done about it to stop this outflow of their people from provinces towards the big cities. That's what happens when you become heavily urbanized, right? But if you are interested, if there is any cities here in Russia where entire blocks being overtook by criminal gangs and there is areas where just homeless people are and just drug addicts and stuff like that you see in European cities or American cities, no, by the way. There is the issue of drug addiction, by the way, don't get me wrong. There is the issue of drug addiction in Russian Federation too, and unfortunately many people are addicted to drugs, different sorts of drugs, right? And law enforcement agencies are trying their best, I guess, to tackle the issue of drug trafficking. And how many times I have reported, by the way, in my programs that in St. Petersburg, for example, sometimes 1 ton of drugs are confiscated, sometimes even more, and that kind of stuff, right? So fight is going on. But I mean, you're not going to find there blocks in Russian cities that are so as neglected as in Western cities, by the way. What is unfortunate, though, of course, different cities have different opportunities, different budgets, and therefore, in the smaller cities, administrations might struggle to do renovation to on a level that is necessary, right? And you might go to some cities and on one place you're going to find buildings that actually were renovated just recently in recent years, and they're a little far. You might see also historical buildings that not yet been renovated. So this might happen, of course, but it's all comes down to finances, isn't it? I have you are now, Scooby, you are on my Patreon, among our Patreons of our project. So therefore, you can check the videos. You will see videos from Vladikavkaz, for example. It's 2,000 kilometers away from Moscow, right? And you can see buildings there. It's nice, isn't it? I mean, you check, you see the videos, and you know, even though Vladikavkaz is definitely not the richest city in Russia, but well, whatever funds administration has, they are directing some of it on renovations, on infrastructure, so that city is becoming more and more attractive. And there is great potential in North Ossetia, Alania in general, and in Vladikavkaz too. And hopefully, this progress will continue. And one day, city will look like 10 times greater than it does now. And it does. It's very nice city, brother. In case of Vladikavkaz, I know what am I talking about. We lived there for a decade before moving towards Moscow region first, and Moscow. And this summer, we went to Vladikavkaz also for a couple of weeks. So I definitely know the city more or less okay. And you can see on my Patreon also all the videos from Dmitrov, for example. In Moscow region, we were living in a Dmitrov city, small, very nice city. And also, I mean, it's better to see with your own eyes than to listen to explanations. You will see that, yes, I mean, these cities are not major cities, neither Dmitrov or Vladikavkaz. Vladikavkaz is a major regional city, of course, but on the scale of Russia, well, it's not there yet, right? But nevertheless, these cities are very nice, very cute, and their administration is doing their work to make it better, to look better. But yet again, there is problems everywhere, right? I've never said that Russia is a sort of paradise. We are dealing with certain problems, certain issues, because this is life, right? But definitely, I don't think you will find anywhere in Russia, in any city, blogs that been overthrown by some criminal gangs and that kind of stuff. That is dangerous to go, as it is the case in many Western cities. That's for sure about it. And also there was Yaroslav Pelechek's comment. A question. Greetings, Levan. I have a question. What about new Chinese tanker Type 100? Can they withstand against FPV drones? They should cooperate in term with the fire support vehicle, who may should care for drones. Plus, they have an interesting gun choice, 100mm gun. When everybody goes for 120, no, China goes for 125 as we do here in Russia. 120 is a NATO gun, 120mm. Although Rheinmetall is developing new tank with 130mm gun now. They even presented it, isn't it, recently? There is assumed that they could be mainly used against infantry and fortifications. Alex from History Legends made a very interesting video about them. Can they withstand against FPV drones? Will these new tanks work? What is your opinion? Well, I know tanks. What tanks you are talking about? I have seen some fragments from a recent parade in Beijing of in which quite a number of new types of weapon systems were introduced, including Type 100. Well, main characteristics that you spot straight away is that it's a lighter tank, right? That Type 99, it's a lighter, 35, 40 tons potentially. Maybe, I mean, hardly less than that, but around 40 tons, I guess, with more narrow chassis, than MBTs before. It more looks like a tanker turret was put on an infantry fighting vehicle. And by the way, the infantry fighting vehicle, this fire supporter vehicle, that you mentioned, basically are on the same chassis, right? Same corpus. And yes, it is an interesting concept that tank is operating with a fire support vehicle, right? But yet again, man, in my personal opinion, tanks are obsolete. So I struggle to believe that this Type 100, this concept of tank and the fire support machine, gonna work really. No, they're not gonna withstand against FPVs, man. You see what Russian or forces or Kiev regime's troops are doing with their tanks. It was first Russian troops, isn't it, that began constructing all these cages around the tanks. Then Kiev regime began copying this idea. Why is that? Because FPV drones, by the way, you cannot hide from FPV drones, and you might withstand one, two. This Type 100 is supposed to have an active defense, active protection system that will work 360. Okay, allegedly against FPVs too. And even if that is true, by the way, okay, they will intercept like 5 incoming FPVs simultaneously, but 6th one will strike anyways, right? 7th one will strike. And if they're gonna put cages around these tanks, then what is the point in this super expensive technology that is used, right? As a active protection system is, for example. So I don't know. I think tanks are obsolete, by the way. I think future for heavy armored vehicles is heavy assault vehicles. Tanks gradually will transform into heavy assault vehicles. When turrets, there either might be no turrets at all, or turrets will be heavily armed and will move only to the certain degree, left and right, like 30, maybe 60 degrees. And that's about it, really. Tanks are obsolete. I think, personal opinion. I'm impressed with Type 100? Not really. I'm not gonna lie. I was not impressed. It's packed with the new technologies, by the way. Yet again, I mean, active protection system is a quite expensive one, right? System, and these tanks, this equipment, new military equipment, should be integrated. They should operate on the battlefield while seeing each other's positions, and this is a high awareness on the battlefield. Of course, gives you advantages, 100%. But nevertheless, one thing is what you see on a parade, and the other is when it comes to high intensity conflict. And if we're gonna see these tanks being deployed anywhere, first of all, probably in Taiwan, right? If it comes to it. And can you imagine what will happen to those tanks, by the way, on Taiwanese streets, on streets of Taiwanese cities? And drones gonna fly from everywhere, man. Scores of drones on each of those vehicles. They're gonna be obliterated. And if you put, yet again, cages that can actually protect from the drones, then what is the point in all those high-tech equipment that you put in a tank? Do I make point? Because you're not gonna use active protection system if you have cage around your tank, isn't it? Because you're gonna blow up yourself. So that's my take. Yet again, I'm no military expert, Yaroslav, so take my opinion with a mountain of salt. But I think tanks are obsolete at this point, and in the future, when it comes to heavy armored vehicles, probably we will see transition of MBTs towards their assault vehicles. that will be capable of fighting in urban areas, much more capable than modern MBTs are. And dear friends, let me join community chat now for a little while. It's already 2 hours, or maybe 5-10 minutes for a couple of questions. I see commentary from the Nikos. Levan, just when Tucker was starting to lose me, he made a really good video about Charlie's legacy, even baking to Genk Uyghur, even talking to Cenk Uyghur from Young Turks. He is a better man than me, honestly. Nikos is commenting, maybe because I'm younger, 26, and left destroy the culture with this woke ideology, which contributes to my depression, that I hate them so much. You told me not to fail for their trap. I need the time. Well, sorry to hear about depression, Nikos, but you are younger. You're gonna, and strong. So you're gonna do good. And I don't think Tucker Carlson or Cenk Uyghur are better persons than you are. I really don't. Tucker Carlson himself acknowledged many times that he was cheerleading war in Iraq, right? That is something that cannot be forgiven, by the way. He might say, well, I was stupid, really. Because of you and people like you, so many people died, actually, right? And you were cheerleading that, so come on, man. Tucker Carlson made a number of mistakes that will never make him a good human being, ever. He might still do something good, by the way, right? But to call him a good human being, I will. No, thanks. Same can be said about Cenk Uyghur, by the way, from opposite side, right? Lately, Cenk Uyghur and Ana Kasparian from Young Turks, they began kind of shifting towards the center, kind of balancing out, right? But what about previous years? I was, believe it or not, but years and years ago, I was watching Young Turks. I was subscribed, right? I said many times, I'm myself, by the way, by our standards, I consider myself to be left liberal, right? So, of course, I'm quite familiar with the left-leaning media projects in the West, right-leaning too, but left-leaning projects too. And I was watching Young Turks too, but when they go also this crazy walk, oh, they lose me, man. When they become justifying literally anything that was coming from a Democrat or this woke mob or stuff like that, that was, something that I could not stand, man. And I just stopped paying attention to them. Although lately they began changing their stance, probably they began losing way too many viewers, and that had some influence on that. But nevertheless, I would not consider Cenk Uyghur to be a good human being. So therefore, don't be that self-critical, Nikos. No, you have a whole life in front of you, right? While these people that you mentioned, they are grown-up people, man. And if they didn't manage to grow up actually by now, then I don't think they're gonna grow up from now on, right? And that's why they are making that many mistakes. In the past, in some cases, and also in modern days. Nevertheless, I can appreciate work that Tucker Carlson doing, right? I may not consider him to be, someone from whom one should take example, right? But nevertheless, time to time, he does some good work, and I appreciate that. I applaud when, credit should be given when it deserved, right? Same can be said about Cenk Uyghur, by the way. Lately, him and Ana Kasparian, they were very active to try at least whatever they can to influence somehow what is going on in the Middle East, and maybe their influence is very limited or non-existent, but nevertheless, they are in US, by the way, or they are going after fascist Israel, right? And we all know how influential lobby of the Israelis in US, and their Cenk and the Anna, they are risking to lose the business that Young Turk is for them, right? But they are choosing to act on their principles, as far as I can tell, at least now. So I give them a credit for that. So that's how it is, and be strong, Nikos. No, not depression. Just tell yourself. I mean, no one tell me life is sugar, right? So we have to carry on. We have to do what we have to do, and that's it. No time for depression and that kind of stuff. That's how we deal with that kind, with depression or anxiety. By the way, there is no time for that. That's how I deal with it, anyways, and many of us. No one told me life is sugar. So yes, there is difficulties, there is this and that, but we have to deal with it. So don't be too self-critical, Nikos. And there was a super chat, dear friends, right now. There was a super chat right now, and let me highlight, dear friends, super chat on Rumble. So Alan Richard, thank you very much for your super chat on Rumble, for your $10 donation. And a comment from Alan is, thanks, Levan, best wishes. Thank you very much. Best wishes to you too. Truly grateful for your support. Thank you. I was thinking that today also not going to be no donations, and well, you change it. So thank you very much. Thank you. And by the way, unfortunately, as I said already, I mean, this project completely depends on you, on your assistance. So I'm staying on air as long as you decide that I deserve it. That's how it is. Let me scroll through the chat, dear friends, and you know what? I can actually try. I can try to show you screen as I see it again. So that's how it is, and well, now, dear friends, you see what I see on my screen, isn't it? I guess that is the case. I cannot simultaneously monitor the live stream itself, and you see how I'm scrolling, isn't it, on the right corner in this video. And let's see if I spot any capital Qs or capital letters. I see capital letters. Michael Kennedy is commenting, BRICS is getting tooled up. Yes, BRICS is BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation Organization. They are creating certain tools to deal with their challenges in financial and the banking systems, for example, right? And hopefully, in upcoming years, they will actually come up with their foundation for alternatives to the Western financial and the banking system, real alternatives, so that whole world, no matter where you live, in the West, East, North, South, everybody will have opportunity to rely on this financial and the banking system without being feared that due to your political stance or this and that, someone gonna shut down your bank accounts or your ability to do some business or transfer money to somewhere or to receive money from somewhere. The Western financial and banking system is dying, by the way. It's been weaponized for so long and for so hard that it's not going to survive. Alan Richards is also commenting, yes, we will buy Russian uranium, but Europe has to stop buying oil. Yes, that's the logic. That's the logic that they push. Alan, exactly. And, world is watching, and probably everybody is kind of, whoever pays attention to the matter is probably kind of confused. I mean, what the hell? I mean, you yourself buy an energy source from Russia and are pressuring others to stop doing it and basically to harm their own economies. What the hell? And Washington is doing this to its allies, formal allies at least, isn't it? Because European countries and the US, I mean, at least on rhetorical level, on the level of statements, they always say that, we are allies, closest allies, NATO allies, and these allies, and that allies. But in reality, it seems like they freaking hate each other or something, Let's find capital letters. That's how it looks. That's why I'm showing time to time, dear friends, when I'm scrolling through. You cannot see chat. Oh. Anya just told me that you cannot see this. I just wanted people to see it. Okay. I'm scrolling. Nevertheless, I'm scrolling through this chat here, and let's see if there is any question. If not, well, the news segment itself was quite long, isn't it? Like 2 hours, almost 2 hours longer. And if you like the video, dear friends, or news segment, and if you did not like the video, please do so. Maybe it will help. Maybe somehow we will influence algorithm, and the video will be seen in recommendations. From today's live stream, I might do like maybe 1, 2, 3 short videos. Maybe one of them will do good, I don't know, to reach wider society. I don't know. When channel is in strict shadow ban, chances that any videos will manage to get through barriers is very slim. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Luan, I think Trump wants to get her equity in TikTok. I mean, his family is directly involved in all sorts of businesses, isn't it? Worldwide, by the way. And maybe he's, he personally, of course, acts like he's not engaged neither in cryptocurrency businesses and neither in anything else, right? But rumors still continue to circulate, isn't it? And maybe he actually wants, through second or third parties, receive some assets of a TikTok. Maybe. I mean, the US system is so corrupt. US political system or economical system, by the way, is so corrupt that, you cannot exclude anything whatsoever. whatsoever, man. So maybe that is exactly the case, and some of the companies that is related to Trump or Trump's family members will gain access to, I don't know, 5, 10, 15% of the shares of TikTok or something like that. Maybe. Oh, I have to disagree with you, Svetlana. Svetlana is saying Jesus was Jewish. So many people wish to deny this because they dislike Jews. I don't dislike Jews, by the way. How I can dislike Jews when me, myself, through my mom's line, might have a Jewish heritage, and my wife, from both sides, from her mom's side and her father's side, has Jewish heritage. So how can I have anything against Jews, man? You tell me. So but what I was saying is that to be Jew means you have to be in Judaism, right? You cannot be Christian Jew. It's just nonsense, right? You are Christian or you have faith of Judaism, right? So Jesus, I mean, there I don't know. We are talking about times that no one really knows what was going on. But he was, if he was Aramaic speaker, he was speaking Aramaic, right? I don't think this is disputed that much. Then maybe he was. I mean, he had Judaism religion and left that religion and was involved in I don't know in this historical process that eventually began Christianity. Maybe he left Judaism. I don't know, but me personally, I don't think he was he had a Judaism beliefs, man. Otherwise, I have no issue with the Jews whatsoever, man. Why would I care who has what religion, man? Why would I care about it? So, but I don't think he was a Jew. It's a mistaken because he was moving around the area that after 48 called Israel too, not just Palestine, but then Israel too. Some people, I guess, assumed that he was Jewish. But no, he was a Semite for sure. He was Semite, Arab. He was Arab, right? Most likely. But yet again, let the historians and the theologians spoke about this. I'm definitely not an expert in that, but but this assumption that you say he was not Jewish because you don't like Jews, this is a wronger assumption, Svetlana, because I explain why. In my family, we had roots, right? Our ancestors, especially from my wife's side, by the way, I mean, from both mom's and pop's side, there is Jewish ancestry. So, and therefore, in my kids, what are we talking about? How can I have anything against Jew people of that believe have this Judaism religion, man? and I always, if you notice, I always make distinguish Israelis. I don't use their terminology like, oh, Jews doing this. No, Israelis. That's what I always say. And what is wrong with their camera there? So I always say it's Israelis, by the way, right? And as among Christians, very many people in different times of history were indoctrinated in some sickening reading of their Christianity, and then these psychos were going out and killing everybody. Same had happened in Israel. Significant parts of society there were indoctrinated in a wrong reading of stuff, and they go crazy. That's how it is. Oh, there was a super chat there, friends, right now. Let me highlight this. So this is a super chat from Scooby on Rumble. Russia has a low fertility rate problem. How is this possible when Slavic women are so hot? Well, I think this is a problem for all developed countries, by the way. Literally all of them experiencing some demographic issues there. Because I don't know. It's I don't know from which country you are, Scooby, but I mean it's a huge, and I don't know how it happens that countries that are only beginning, like fast tracking their development. In those countries, birth rate is much higher than in developed countries, where economies are doing better, when there is certain programs in place to assist increase of the birth rate, right? Like it is in Russia, by the way. You would not believe how many programs are financed by federal budget to encourage younger people to create families and to have more babies, right? But I don't know. Something is in psyche, right? It's a huge responsibility. First of all, it's a huge responsibility, and you have to feel strong enough financially to to have more babies, right? And uncertainty. How should I say it correctly? This word pronounced correctly. This uncertainty that and constant some geopolitical crisis in this world probably do play some role in this, that young people are waiting for a later and later time to make families, right? And then once they make families, they might have one kid. Second one is already becoming relatively rare occasions. Third one is something extraordinary. And this is no good, of course. This is no good. We do definitely have an issue in Russia with demography. And there is actually, so many freaking programs in place, by the way, from government to encourage families to have more and more kids. But yet again, I don't know. Something else have to be done, I guess. I don't know. But if you are young families can get a mortgage, for example, a family mortgage, and will pay like 5-6%, while for everyone else, mortgage, if I take mortgage right now, percent interest from bank gonna be 2025, so I'm not in no position to take any mortgage anytime soon. I'm not even thinking about it. It's just too freaking expensive. But for young generation, by the way, government does finances mortgages. You pay like 5-6%, which is not bad, let's say, and the rest, by the way, is paid by state. This is for young families, by the way. When you have a kid, you will get I don't know how much is in dollars right now. I guess like $10,000-15,000 in rubles, obviously. You will get 500,000 to 700,000 rubles, by the way, straight away, just because you have a kid, right? When you have a second kid, you will get more financial assistance from state to improve life conditions and so on, right? For family and for your kids. For third kid, I guess there is even more assistance. Same time, by the way, there is other programs in place to assist families with the kids and especially young families. But unfortunately, this still, it works, obviously, on some ways, but unfortunately, we still are experiencing some difficulties in fertility rate. This is true. But I don't know. I don't know what government have to do. What else they gonna do? By the way, maybe they will. Maybe you know what? If government will begin investing in housing big time, and young families will get not a mortgage but house straight away. For example, as an example. Maybe that will encourage more people to create families and to have kids. I don't know, man. I don't know, but this is an issue. And this is an issue for all developed countries, not just for Russia, but for Russia too. And I mean, it's hard to blame government, by the way, for this, because they are trying, man. They are trying to encourage people to have kids, but to create families and to have kids. But I guess more needs to be done. Although, what else, man? I mean, I don't know. But yes, there is that kind of issue, man, and I don't know how to deal with it. I'm not an expert in that field, of course, and you are correct. Russian woman is most beautiful woman in the world. I mean, there can be no doubts about that. People from other countries might try to argue, and I respect your arguments, but nevertheless, I'm gonna stick to my opinion that yes, Russian woman is the most beautiful woman. Also Ossetian and Georgian, brother. I will add. You know, from former Soviet Union. Let me say that way. So, and I will simultaneously talk about all the nations from Soviet Union. You know, I've been born in Soviet Union, raised at least to the teenage years. Well, there was still Soviet Union, isn't it? And I guess to nowadays I have this mentality from these childhood years that all of us are brotherly nations. Everybody that was a part of Soviet Union, which is good, by the way. One of the greatest things that Soviet Union did is to create this mindset among people that otherwise were quite different in many cases, culture-wise, historically speaking, and so on. But in Soviet Union, well, we really get together, all of us, and by the way, Soviet people defeated Nazi Germany, right? And there was this brotherhood of the nations, right? And it's so sad that this was lost, man, somewhat after the collapse of the country. But you know, I'm still have this attitude, warm attitude to all the people of Soviet Union, man, and it's not gonna change. And dear friends, maybe I will. Question from Scooby: Is Georgia paying lira, ruble, or dollars to Russia? That's what matters most. They should at least try to denominate their debt in a currency they can issue. It's a lari, Scooby, not a lira. It's a lari in Georgia. And well, if loan was in dollars, they will have to pay in dollars. If loan was in rubles, they will probably pay in rubles, and so on. I don't think Russia give Georgia credit in Georgian currency, lari. I think that's how it works. If you take a loan in whatever currency, then you will pay back in same currency. That's how it works, isn't it? But anyways, Georgia only has like 9 billion debt at this point, which is not that big of a deal, really, for even for such a tiny republic as Georgia is. Most importantly, hopefully Tbilisi will maintain good working relationships with Russia, and will stay out of the troubles, right? Which is not that easy in that extremely difficult region that Southern Caucasus is. And I'm quite sure, by the way, more peace and stability will bring more prosperity for Georgian people. All the people of Georgia, by the way. Georgia is a very diverse, historically speaking, multicultural, multi-ethnic nation, and they will have every chances to prosper. Let's just stay out of the problems, stay out of the trouble, and maintain good working relationships with all the neighbors, including Russia. That's what Georgia needs. And they will deal with debt and with everything else. And let me, dear friends, oh, interesting. Nidish Kumar is commenting, we are trying to develop FPV drone launchers on our T-90 and T-72 tanks. That's a good idea, I think. I also think about a possibility that maybe tanks will, maybe certain equipment will be added to a tank. It would not make them too heavy, right? You can put some additional boxes on a turret with FPV drones, vertical launch FPV drones, for example, right? And those FPV drones can provide additional awareness for tank crew, and also some might be surveillance drones. You can have one or two surveillance drones. Let's say if one is damaged, then another will be used, and simultaneously several attack drones, right? That's a good idea, I think. Until we still have tanks, MBTs in our armies, then I think they have to have drones in their disposal, and a commander of the crew should be able, potentially all crew members should be able to operate with these drones. That should be part of their training, operating with the drones. So yes, it's a good idea, by the way. It's a good idea. I think India is ahead of rest of the world. If you are already testing the idea and maybe even adapting it. So this is definitely a way to go forward, man, because modern warfare is seems like circles around the drones and their and their information. More you know about battleground, then better chances you have. Bold Eagle is also commenting, turrets will be unmanned AIs. Bold Eagle is talking about tanks, of course, MBTs, and yes, that's the idea. Russian T-14 Armata tanker, and also Chinese Type 100 that Vladislav Polichek asked me on Patreon, or they have unmanned turrets. So yes, AI control partially, AI will be integrated for sure. But in the future run, in the long run, I think turrets are vulnerable still. Turrets are still vulnerable, manned or unmanned, but they are additional stuff on MBT that can be hit, right, and damaged. So maybe engineers will move away from current concept of the MBT towards concept of assault gun that was in the past, by the way, right? During the Second World War and for a decade or two after, there was actually assault guns in armed forces of this world, including in Soviet Union. But then they were replaced with either artillery on one side and the tanks on the other side. I think we're gonna go back to that technology again, assault guns. Heavily armored vehicles, all-terrain vehicles with their massive firepower, so that they will manage to deal with the drones and also to, if necessary, demolish entire freaking buildings from close range. So they would be able to, if well enough protected, then they'd be able to move around their urban areas. So I think we are going towards, not we, but engineers on heavily armored vehicles going to move away from MBT concepts, modern MBT concepts, to heavy assault guns or ultra heavy assault guns, something like that. And also Nidish Kumar is commenting, land drones will be even more dangerous than aerial drones. Well, land drones already being deployed, isn't it, on a battlefield in a zone of special military operation, and they are tremendously dangerous, of course. But for now, of course, aerial drones are leading. If eventually land drones become so sophisticated that they will conduct land offensive or defensive operations, then they're going to become very little force, for sure. Will they be able to minimize influence of aerial drones? I don't know, but they're going to be, of course, very important assets too. Nidish Kumar is also commenting, tanks will become more agile and lighter. Well, that's the direction that Chinese Type 100 is moving, seems like. But yet again, you're not going to run away from a drone. Even much more lighter infantry fighting vehicles and armored personal carriers are not able to run away from a drone. So how light your tank going to be? You're not going to make tank lighter than like 35 tons, right? 35 tons probably is minimum weight that tank can have due to armor requirements. They have to have some armor, isn't it? Chassis, turret, and so on. Munition. So you're not going to run away from a drone anyways. So better than not to run away from drones, but to be protected from the drones. No matter if it has a tandem-shaped warhead, this drone, or something else. So engineers will work on ideas how to deal with the drones, not how to run away from them, because you're not going to run from a drone anyways. No matter how fast you are, drones are fast. And dear friends, let's I see Alexander G's comment. No, Levan, we don't see your screen. We only see you. Yes, my wife also told me that it's your on a screen. I was hoping that with these manipulations, this section of the chat will be visible also. And probably, technically speaking, probably it is possible to do. I just don't know how. I just don't know how yet, but maybe, StreamYard probably has some feature to make it visible. I just need to learn it little. Yes, Alexandria is also commenting that, yes, that thing that you tried to share went poof. Yes, sorry, dear friends, I tried to show you what I see exactly, entire screen. It just did not work. So my apologies. So, dear friends, it's already like more than 2.5 hours. So, if I may, I will end there. Thank you very much for your time, for your questions and comments. Later on today, most likely, I will publish second news update on my Patreon and Boosty pages, and maybe some parts of it on YouTube and Rumble too. You see, I'm beginning to get tired a little bit because to stay online like 2 hours and more, yes, it's getting to you eventually, and to speak constantly. By the way, that's But anyways, so most likely I will have second news update on my Patreon and Boosty pages today, and parts of it probably will be published on YouTube and Rumble too. And dear friends, if you come across short videos from this live stream, and if you have time, please like the video and maybe you can leave some commentary there too. Let's see if these short clips will help to deal with the algorithm somehow. Thank you all, dear friends, and many thanks to members of our community that donated today and who supported in the past and continues to support. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day and take care, dear friends. Thank you.